But that's what David was saying. Like, come practice here, practice your casting and all that stuff before you go on a guided trip down there so they don't yell at you when you miss fish.
They're going to yell at you anyway. When this Mexican guy just chewed me, he goes, what in the hell are you doing? I'm doing my best. That's what
I'm trying.
Welcome to Guys Fishing Weekly. We don't just fish, we hook.
Hey, buddy.
Eddie.
How are you, man?
I'm great. How are you, dude?
I'm doing all right.
Yeah. Weary traveler you are.
I know. I'm back, though. I'm back in the saddle.
Excellent. Who we got on the show today, buddy?
Well, before we do that,
today's episode is sponsored by Trout Routes. Winter trout fishing can be a challenge, but it's also one of the most rewarding seasons to be on the water. To make the most of it, you need the right tools, and that's where Trout Routes Pro comes in. With satellite imagery and detailed maps of over 50,000 trout streams, you can scout winter-friendly spots like deep pools, tailwaters, and areas that stay ice-free. Planning your trip is easier than ever with over 350,000 access points mapped, plus custom markers that let you track your favorite winter runs or places to warm up. You can even check stream flows and water temperatures to ensure you're fishing in the most productive conditions. Winter fishing is about precision and preparation. Let Trout Routes Pro be your guide to finding the perfect stretch of water this season. Podcast listeners can save 20% on their first year of Trout Route Pros by using code WEEKEND2025 at maps.troutroutes.com. That's 20% off your first year of Trout Routes Pro by using code WEEKEND2025 at maps.troutroutes.com.
Today on the show, we're talking with Doug Oatman, photographer, salmon fly tyer, teacher, and angler.
I'm going to tell you, Ed, it never gets old talking to people who have been around it a lot longer than you have. Doug gave us some really cool stuff. Like I say, learning from previous people, so cool. So what a great conversation.
No doubt. We talk about topics including the art of fly tying, salmon fly tying, murdering grasshoppers, and 6-pound smallies.
Let's get it on like Donkey Kong.
What a nerd. Hey, Doug, how are you?
Hey, what's up?
How are you, buddy? Welcome to the show, Doug. Good to have you here.
Yeah, good to be here.
Look at that big fish you have on the wall behind you.
Oh, yeah, that's a 30-inch rainbow from Taneycomo.
Nice. Wow.
That's pretty awesome.
By far my best trout.
That's a monster.
Right.
You could have told me it was a salmon, and I would have been like, "Oh, that makes sense. That's a monster."
Yeah, that day I caught that 30 and 4 25s. So,
Wow.
so it was a pretty good day.
Nice.
Day.
Wow. That's a great day. How long ago was that? How long have you had that?
That's been 2 years ago. October 10th, 2 years ago.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right on.
That's awesome.
That was a fun day for sure. Well, there's that kind of a story that goes with that. I was down there the weekend before, and I picked up a rock. And underneath this rock were all of these microscopic, almost red worms.
Okay.
So I came back to K&K and designed this little tiny red worm out of tubing, red tubing.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
I think it's more the size, because that whole fly is only about that long of red tubing. And he just absolutely hammered it.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
the same with the 425s. I mean, it just...
That's cool.
The red tube fly crushed the big fish.
That's right. And it was like an 18.
Right. Oh, wow. That's amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What's the fly's name? Did you name it? Is it Doug's Red Tube?
Yeah, that's what Kevin named it. So, yeah, I very seldom ever name any of my flies, but
Yeah, that's awesome though. It's cool to
As
go.
long as they
and,
catch fish, they don't need a name. That's all good.
that's right. That's right.
That's awesome.
Well, why don't you give us and your listeners a little bit of a background on yourself, how you got into fishing, what you're up to now, and things like that.
Well, it pretty much started, our family owned 100 acres, and 50 of it was water with a 150-yard concrete dam on the south end. We had a cabin on it, and we spent our weekends down there hunting and fishing, quail hunting, goose hunting. I think there were 4 or 5 duck blinds on it. And so I kind of grew up spoiled when it came to fishing.
Yeah.
It was absolutely nothing to go down there and catch 3, 4, 5 pound or 3 or 4 bass that weighed anywhere from 3 to 6 pounds.
Wow.
I mean, I was really spoiled. But that being said, I spent most of my time as a young kid throwing grasshoppers in the water and just watching the big black perch come up and take them.
Right.
And when doing that, I thought, oh man, there's got to be a way to imitate these hoppers. So about 6 months later, my mother got me fly tying lessons down on Southwest Boulevard at Thanks Tackle. It was right there by Manor Bakery and Harold Strasser's Hardware.
Okay.
And so I took 2 years of fly tying lessons from him. And then it just went on from there. It
awesome.
kind of got out of hand, really.
It's a slippery slope.
Yes. And where back then everybody spent after dinner in front of the television.
Yeah.
And I spent my time in front of my fly tying desk. I don't know if you remember the old phone tables where your dial phone sat there on the table.
Right.
And then kind of a writing area with it.
Right.
It's sitting right here from 57. And that I went down in the basement at that desk and tied flies while they watched television.
Wow.
I mean, I was consumed.
Yeah,
Right,
sounds
right.
like it.
Yeah.
So how did you get like materials and things like that? Did you just start like?
Well, most of the time I had to get them at Thanks.
Okay.
That's about all there was in town.
Right.
And Harold Strasser from Strasser's Hardware was a really good friend of my grandfather.
Okay.
So, and he would hunt a lot and get stuff, bring me feathers. And of course, with my uncle and my grandfather hunting down on that lake property, I had all the deer hair I wanted, and I had all the
Right.
duck feathers. And so, yeah, I had it pretty easy when it came to getting material back then.
Right.
Were you big on like getting your own, like going out and harvesting your own stuff, or was it just your?
I wasn't
your
early
family?
on because I wasn't old enough to see. I was born in 48, so in 57, I wasn't out carrying a shotgun.
Right.
But and I ended up doing a lot of hunting down there around the lake, and
Right.
so
That's great. So you've stuck with fly tying for pretty much, your whole life. You've been doing it from back then to now. How have you seen things changing in the fly tying world?
Well, back then there wasn't the synthetics that there are today. That's probably the biggest change. Everything was natural materials, and a lot of the natural materials came from animals that is now illegal to harvest.
Okay.
Like seals.
Right.
I mean, so, and I've got a canister of seal hair
Wow.
that I've had probably since about 58 or 59,
Right.
which came in handy in tying salmon flies that I could get where nobody else could get it. because
Yeah.
I did it for
Right.
so long.
Right.
So, but yeah, I'd say that's probably the biggest change is all the
Okay.
synthetic.
Synthetics. Right.
Yeah.
And so, how did you get from throwing grasshoppers, murdering grasshoppers in your family lake, to now? You told us before the show that you tie just these beautiful Atlantic salmon flies.
Well, it was definitely a process because it took multiple years. My mother was administrator of the business office at KU Med.
Okay.
So I grew up running around the student union at KU.
Okay.
And Frank Schuler, who was the barber for all the medical students,
Okay.
was right across from the pool hall. And he let me tie flies and put them on a card in the barber shop and sell them out of the barber shop. And
Wow.
that was junior high.
Okay.
So,
Wow.
That's pretty awesome.
and then it just kept going.
Right.
And I'm not big into selling anything.
Right.
I do this strictly for me.
Yeah.
So, and I really don't remember what got me hooked on salmon flies later. But, and I think there's only one or two that I actually named.
Oh wow.
That's cool.
Is there a reflection?
A little bit.
Little
We
bit,
can
but I
see it.
can. Yeah, we can see it. That's
Yeah,
cool.
that's one I call Calypso. In my theory with salmon flies, I think they got way too busy.
Okay.
Okay.
I like
Yeah.
more of a simple,
Mhm.
not see how much stuff you can get on it.
Right.
Right.
So
I think that salmon flies are just beautiful. But I have no idea why they got so beautiful, or do they actually catch fish? Or is like, why
do.
are they look the way they look?
everything I tie strictly to frame.
Okay.
Um, when salmon spawn, when they have their salmon runs to spawn, they are not interested in feeding at all.
Okay.
So they're tied out of really bright colors to try and coax them into making a swipe at it.
Okay.
Right.
They're not really
Out of
trying.
anger.
So that's it. That's how they got started, and that was clear back in the 1400s.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, that's incredible that fly tying has been around. The art of fly tying you had mentioned, it, was it in the 1400s? It traces back that far as an art form, and just the progression of it. That's amazing. The history behind fly tying.
It's absolutely amazing, and the people. Well, what do I want to say? There were royalty in all these different countries, like England, and I
Right.
mean, they're the ones that could afford to do it.
Right. Right.
So consequently, you've got salmon flies like the Jock Scott.
Right.
So, yeah, it's quite a process to learn the art of tying salmon flies and the history of it.
Right.
Yeah. And then there's,
Now-
it branches out to aquatic insects. And
Right. Now it gets pretty crazy. It's so
it
complex
does get
now.
crazy.
Now Ed met you obviously in a fly tying class. So
Right.
you're teaching people how to tie flies. How long have you been doing that? How long have you been a part of it? Have you passed it down to any of your own kids or any of your own family? Do they
My
tie
kids are
flies?
not interested.
They're not. Yeah. Okay.
You know how that goes. You want them to be, but they're not. I've got a little
Yes.
granddaughter, though, that's 5 that I think she can already cast a fly rod. So we'll
Nice.
see where it goes.
That's awesome.
Good.
Yeah, but I actually taught my first class. Let me think. I think it was at Shawnee Mission Park in the early 70s
Oh, okay. Nice.
when I first started teaching. And then I'm trying to think of the store on the plaza. Eddie Bauer had a store on the plaza, and the guy that was in charge of the fly fishing at Eddie Bauer asked me to come teach a class there. And I can't remember. I think I only actually taught there 1 year.
Yeah.
And then he got moved. He ended up at Bass Pro down in Springfield. And I still see him. This is crazy. Once you make these connections, and that's the nice thing about any kind of fishing.
Right.
Once you make all these connections, they kind of stay with you. You may not see them for years, but
Right.
like I hadn't seen that guy probably, in 15 years.
Right.
And then I started going to the international fly tires thing down at Mountain Home, Arkansas, and ran into him again. And he remembered me, which was so, yeah.
That's awesome.
It's kind of neat, the relationships you make with people.
Yeah, and I think that was one thing that was super cool when I came into K&K and took the fly tying class and started down that journey. But to see the community that you guys had at that shop prior to it closing was super inspiring and aligns exactly with what we're trying to do at GFW and getting people to get together and create these communities and create those relationships that will last over a long lifetime through the sport of fishing.
Oh, yeah. It's incredible. I started going to K&K about 38 years ago when he was downtown. He had a store downtown.
Okay.
His dad, I don't know if you remember Elko Camera Shops. Probably
I do not.
But there was a big one in the Mission Shopping Center.
Okay.
And I had moved to Dallas and came back, and he was managing the Elko Camera Shop in the Mission Shopping Center. Kevin was. And his dad owned a huge processing plant downtown, and they would drive all over and pick up film from drugstores and grocery stores, stuff, bring it back, develop it, print it, and take it back. And anyway, his dad ended up selling that processing plant to Fuji.
Okay.
Wow.
But before he did that, he gave him space to start K&K.
Okay. Nice.
In a warehouse that he had there down on Main Street.
Nice.
So you can kind of tell where he's come from there.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the last I heard, he was the largest Orvis fly rod dealer in the United States.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So
I didn't realize that. That's pretty crazy.
yeah, he sold more rods than anybody.
Right. I'm in Colorado where the trout fishing is, there's a lot. I have free reign. You're in, I can drive, 30 minutes and be fishing anywhere and
Where
be in a
is that?
trout. In Denver. I'm in Denver.
Oh, Poudre Canyon, I fish all the time.
Nice.
In fact, about since 1949 until I went in the service, we went to Poudre Canyon every year for 2 weeks.
Oh, right on. Good.
I mean, we'd go up to Zimmerman and get greenback cutthroats, and
It's nice. Good. Yep.
so my whole family hunted and fished, and
Okay. Good deal.
yeah, there were 14 families that all met there the same 2 weeks from all over the country.
That's really
awesome.
cool.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
It's a lot of fun.
So I have easy access to great trout fishing. You guys in Kansas City, tell me a little bit about the fishing around there that that's good. That people don't know about maybe.
Well,
Because people don't think about Kansas City as like, a fishing mecca, but there's good fishing around there.
there is very good fishing around here. Melbourne Lake is probably one of the best lakes, which is about 45 minutes down I-35.
Okay.
Probably one of the best smallmouth lakes around anywhere.
Nice.
Well, I mean, we go down there and catch 4, 5, 6 pounds smallies.
Nice.
Wow.
Right.
And it's getting now to where all the bass clubs have learned about it. But still, it's not crowded at all.
Good.
course, it's a typical Kansas lake.
Right.
Yeah.
Make sure the wind's in single digits,
Right.
or you'll get blown clear
You'll
off.
get blown across, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I've done a lot of tarpon fishing in Mexico, and bringing that same kind of technique back to Kansas City is carp fishing.
Right.
And we've got a whole group of people that's all they do pretty much is carp fish,
Right on.
because they're large and so powerful. They're like a tarpon.
Right.
I think they're kind of nicknamed a poor man's tarpon.
Right.
Right. Well, and we had David Pitt on the show, and he talks about how he basically has a flat skiff that he takes around and fishes that way. And it's like, it kind of blew our mind when we heard that that's how he fished for stuff, since we're wading in rivers all the time.
Fish Clinton Lake for
I think so, yeah.
Yep.
carp.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, he recommended the book Lords of the Fly, which was all about the tarpon fishing back in the 70s and into the early 80s, and when it was, down in Florida. And I read it, and it was such a great read. I grew up in Fort Lauderdale, so some of that stuff was familiar to me down in the Keys and everything. But I wasn't a fisherman until I came out to Colorado to go to school, and so. But it was such a great read, reading about tarpon fishing, and we've never done that, and so that's one of the things that's definitely on our bucket list. But
you got to do it. You got to, and jump baby tarpon. Don't try and catch big ones.
Right.
They're too work. But if you get 50 pounds or 40, right in there, they're so much fun.
It's so funny to think that a 40, 50-pound fish is small. But when you read that book, those guys are hunting 200-pound fish, right? Yeah. So the baby tarpon. And from what I hear, for kind of like do-it-yourselfers, you can find bays and things to fish for baby tarpon and get into them. So
absolutely. But you're still better off with a guide.
Right.
Trying to find your way through the mangroves you can get lost.
Right. For sure. But that just sounds like a blast. So that's really cool. But that's what David was saying. Like, come practice here, practice your casting and all that stuff before you go on a guided trip down there, so they don't yell at you when you miss fish.
They're going to yell at you anyway.
That's just the nature of the sport.
The last time I was in Mexico, you've only got a target of about 12 inches between the leaves of the mangroves and where the fish are hanging out around the roots.
Right.
When this Mexican guide just chewed me, he goes, what in the hell are you doing? I'm doing my best. That's what
I'm trying.
Yeah, but it was windy, and trying to hit that small target and get that fly back up in the mangroves was kind of like,
oh, that's so awesome. That's awesome. Where in Mexico do you go tarpon fishing?
I'm trying to think, what's that place everybody flies into?
There's Puerto Vallarta. There's
no, I'm on the other side.
Cancun.
I'm about 80 miles south of Cancun, a little town called Tulum.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah. Ascension Bay, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome.
And that's where a lot of people go, because you're kind of out of the crowd.
Right.
So.
Well, back to K&K, what did that community kind of mean to you, and how supportive was that in your life going through fly fishing?
Well, I tell you, I grew up bass fishing, and I was not when we went to Colorado, up in Poudre Canyon, I had a little spinning reel, and I was drifting eggs and stuff.
Right.
But I really didn't get into fly fishing for trout until, I'm going to say, about the last 15 years.
Okay.
So they kind of taught me what it was like to be a trout fisherman.
Right.
Huh. And so when you were going out to Poudre Canyon, you weren't trout fishing.
I was trout fishing, but not with a fly rod.
Oh, but not with a fly rod. I got you.
Now, wait a minute. I take that back. I bought my first fly rod in 1957 in Racine, Wisconsin. In fact, it's hanging right here. It's a Hedden Mark IV.
Oh, wow.
And it's got a spring-loaded reel seat.
Cool.
But I did trout fish a little bit in Poudre Canyon and through Colorado with that rod, but not having anybody really show me
Right.
what I was supposed to do or how to do it. Very little luck.
Right.
Just getting frustrated.
Oh, there
lot of
was.
frustrating-
It was bad luck. So, yeah, it's just been about the last 15 years that I really got into really heavy into trout fishing. And now I'm going back to bass.
Nice. Good.
Yeah.
What's making that move?
Oh, there's just some excitement, especially with big largemouth. I fished Dallas lakes, and where you're fishing 7-8 pound largemouth, and to see them come up and take a topwater bug of some kind,
Yeah.
and tail walk 3 feet off the water. I mean,
Right.
it's all by itself, really.
That's cool.
Yeah, the few bass I've caught on a fly rod have been incredibly exhilarating experiences. Even the smaller ones, they're just so aggressive. It's a different kind of feel. So it's cool. Now, do you tie a lot of bass flies? Do you do?
Well, let me just show you. I'm really well known for my foam bass flies.
Nice.
I don't know if you can see this.
Yep. Yeah.
The Papa. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's just foam from Hobby Lobby.
Okay.
Well, let's see if I can get one that shows. No, I don't see one that really. Here, this is more of a frog style foam.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And you do see the layers.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I just when I cut the foam, I glue all 3 sections just at each tip
Right.
because the rest of it's bound with thread. It didn't need to be glued.
Right.
Mhm.
But I glue, when I make one like this, I can fish this fly for largemouth for a whole year. It will not come apart
That's awesome.
because every step is glued.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So
How long
So
does it
that-
take you to tie? How long does it take you to tie one of those? Roughly.
maybe 5 minutes,
Okay.
3 to
So
5
that would-
minutes.
So
That
that
would
would probably
take you,
take me
like-
about 2 days.
Yeah. That's a multi-day project for you, buddy.
And then I got to fishing lily pads down in Dallas, and I came up with a fly that I could pull over lily pads and not get hooked. So I came up with one that rides hook point up.
Oh wow. Nice. Right.
And so you
And
can just pull it over
Right.
on a lily pad and let it plop in the water and hold on.
And drive those bad boys crazy. Yeah.
And there's a little tiny bead chain weight on the bottom. I don't know if you can see it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's
then
enough
make
to get it.
land the same way every time
Oh wow.
Sweet.
Okay, cool.
because the weight kind of,
Flops it the right way. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, it's a process.
Right. Right.
We had a guy on the show probably about a month ago now, Kyle Bacco up in Montana, and he's big into, he's an Umpqua signature tire, and he ties foam body like hoppers and stuff like that. And he talks about how he has stacks and stacks of Hobby Lobby and Walmart foam in his that he's glued together, and he's got all these different colors, and
Right.
so
Yeah. Here's another spring frog pattern, kind of. I don't know
Yeah,
if you
those
can
are-
see it.
Yeah.
those are so cool.
Awesome. Right on.
And they're
That's
they're so lightweight out of foam, you can cast them very easy with a 5 and 6 weight.
Right. Right.
Do you have a foam mouse?
I do. Several. I don't think I got one.
We recently fell in love with mouse patterns. And so yeah, we love fishing mouse patterns for trout.
Oh, down on the white?
Well, that's where we're headed. We do some, more in the evenings and night here. You can get some good fish on them, but we hear the White River down there in Arkansas is supposed to
Oh,
be
at
really
night
good.
they just absolutely slam big
Yeah.
30-inch browns.
That's what we're gonna go after here in a little bit. That's our plan for March.
Well, and they use great big streamers too, 8-inch streamers.
Yes. Did you hear
Uh,
that,
I love
Ed?
streamers.
8-inch streamers.
The thing that you want to remember, and people make too big a deal out of patterns. I mean, I tie these foam patterns because I know they work after several years, but the fish don't care.
Right.
We tie these for us.
Yeah.
We want them to look nice.
Right.
They
Right.
don't. You could take a wine cork and just dip it in glue and just stick it down in feathers and cast it, and they're going to hit it the same way. It's the movement of the water, the V that it makes pulling it through the water, and the popping that attracts them. They don't care how it looks.
It looks right. Right.
Well, it's the same way with a mouse.
Right.
Right.
You could take one of those corks and put a pipe hammer on the end of it and pull it through the water, and they're going to hammer it.
I have a question I always ask our fly tires, although I didn't ask our last guest. But do you think flies? I have a theory that flies are more for catching fishermen than they are for catching fish. Like the pattern.
That's true with everything in Bass Pro.
Right. Right.
I mean, they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yes. That's great.
Yeah, no, you can take, in fact, back in the probably early 60s, we used to take broom handles and cut them into round cylinders or maybe 1.5 to 2-inch cylinders and put treble hooks on the bottom of them and catch all the bass we wanted.
Wow. That's incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So what do you think separates? Obviously, there's a lot of marketing around flies and lures and things like that. What do you think separates like your ability to catch something like with a cork versus somebody that needs the fanciest Rapala they can get?
It's knowing the fishes that you're targeting. I mean, anybody that targets largemouth bass know that they want commotion on the surface.
Right.
And so that's pretty easy to duplicate.
Right. Right.
I mean, if I can do it with a broom handle, you can do it with anything.
Right.
Now, I think when you get into trout fishing, I think matching the hatch, I think there's a lot of times where that really comes into play.
Right.
You know, if they're having a big mayfly hatch the closer you can get at least to the color and size, may not look like one, but
Right.
if you go down to Taneycomo or you go anywhere on a trout stream and there's 500 fishermen there, all of them using something different and all of them catching fish, that should tell you something.
Right. Right.
I mean, everybody like to think just like me with my little red worm. And I know that it's absolutely the size.
Right.
It
Right.
has nothing to do with any artistic value it might have. But it's matching that little tiny worm that I found underneath that rock.
Right.
Yep. Yep.
So, and it's knowing how to dead drift that to where they'll take it.
Right. Technique matters. Right.
Technique
Yeah.
does
Like you
matter.
say, if you're fishing bass, getting that V and getting that commotion on top, they'll come get anything.
Hey, do you guys mind if I have a little shout out to a friend?
Absolutely.
Sure.
One of the people that influenced me the most in my fly fishing was Jose Wahebe, the Spanish fly and flip pallet.
Yeah.
And I am good friends with Jose's daughter, Chrissy Wahebe.
Oh, wow.
And in fact, I'm trying to get her and Flip to come up and give a class at Bass Pro.
Cool.
Right on.
So anyway, anybody that's interested to the legacy of Jose Wahebe, go to the Jose Wahebe Foundation website and donate whatever.
Right on. Yeah, he was one of the pioneers in starting like actually fly fishing on ESPN, and like when it first came out, he was like one of the first ones that had a fly fishing show. I used to watch when I first started fly fishing. It was him and Flip Pallet who I was watching on their shows when they first started, and they were some of the first guys to do it, that have like a regular weekly show. So that's awesome. Yeah, I loved his
And
stuff.
this was a real interesting fact. Flip Pallet was a loan officer at a bank, and he gave Jose, where he had no collateral, he gave him the loan for his first boat.
Oh, wow. Right on.
He recognized the potential.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's cool.
Yeah, both those guys are pioneers and stalwarts, man, in the fly fishing world. They're great. That's awesome.
And
Okay,
it's hard. I talked to Chrissy just the other day, and it's hard for her to make this. She wants to keep this foundation going.
Right.
To remember her dad.
Right.
And if anybody wants to donate anything,
cool. Yeah, good. No,
definitely.
we'll promote that.
Spends her time with Jose's boat, taking wounded warriors and children that have cancer and stuff out on the boat free.
Nice. Good.
That's awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely promote it and get it out there. We'll link it in the show notes and all that. So
okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
She's really, really something. She does a wonderful job at
That's fantastic.
Wounded warriors, and
it's good stuff.
That's great. Well, this has been an awesome, fun conversation. What do you say we wrap this up with the GFW hot seat?
What's that?
Get ready. Get ready, Doug. Get ready.
Yeah.
Okay.
Welcome to GFW Hot Seat, where the name of the game is to answer the questions. And the prizes are... Wait, who said we have prizes? All right, you ready? Question number 1?
Yeah.
What is one thing you're currently celebrating in life?
The birth of my granddaughters.
That's awesome.
In fact, that's tomorrow. One of them tomorrow.
Oh, fantastic. Nice. Good.
Yeah.
Congrats on that. Give us one piece of content, a book, a video, a TV series, anything like that, a piece of content that you'd recommend to our listeners. He's got it right nearby.
Yep.
If you're interested in salmon flies, this guy, Michael D. Rendenzich, was probably the #1 salmon fly tyer in the world.
Okay. Sweet.
He taught a class in my basement.
Nice.
In your basement.
If you're interested, he goes into great detail in this book. And let me just show you.
Wow.
Not only on how to tie the flies, but how to frame them, how to mount them.
Nice. That's cool.
True art.
And why they work. That'd be a good
one he tied for me.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's cool.
That's awesome. Right on. Oh, that's amazing.
That's sweet.
That's the book of the month.
Okay.
Pick that book up. I need to learn some things about salmon flies. So,
indeed.
Well, and the one thing that it really teaches you is the buildup. When you tie a salmon fly, the buildup of material. We might tie a feather on and make 3 wraps. Before we tie the next feather on, we unwrap 2.
Oh, right.
So we don't have the buildup of material.
Okay. Right. Nice.
Because you're trying to layer them on as like, you're trying to get the material to show the most, right?
Right. Here's a. I don't know.
That's a cool one.
Has it got a reflection?
It does a little bit.
Yeah, that's better. Yeah.
That's cool.
Those are awesome.
I'm a photographer by trade.
Yeah.
So I photographed the fly first, put it in a shadow box, and put the print above it.
Right.
That's super cool.
Yeah, I tied one here not very long ago for the Blue Angels. It's all in different shades of blue. And I tied 2 of them. Gave one to the Blue Angels, and then I had one for myself. Somebody stole it.
Oh, man.
no.
I was down at the show and somebody took it.
Oh,
Just when it was out, like on your table?
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Ah.
I go to the bathroom and went to get lunch or something and came back and it was gone.
ugh.
Well, we're gonna call out the community and get that back to you.
So, yeah, there's a lot of good things you can do
Right.
in the fly tying community for veterans, and
No doubt. Yeah, there's some great organizations.
yes.
Well, that's a good book, Rec.
What is one of your favorite fishing memories?
I was down at Clearwater, Florida, waiting underneath the Clearwater Bridge and hooked a 90-pound tarpon, waiting. And I landed it. It's a miracle. But
Wow.
and don't know how I did it. Couldn't
Right.
hardly keep up with him.
Right.
So you were just chasing him on foot.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
In
run.
waist deep water.
Right.
And how long did it take to land him?
Oh, it was a good hour.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a good hour because I couldn't control him.
Right.
I mean, I had no control at all.
That's
So,
great.
Did you get a picture of him?
No, didn't get anything.
90-pound tarpon, nice. While you
Yeah.
were waiting.
And that's why I say, I know firsthand, you're better off jumping the baby tarpons because it's a lot of work in a hot surrounding. I mean,
Yeah.
you're sweating. Yeah.
Doug, what's one piece of advice you wish someone had given your 20-year-old self?
You know, most of the people that are good, really exceptional fly tyers, get rid of the ego.
Nice. Good.
I would, yeah, and I did early on, but
Right.
there's 100 people just like you,
Right.
or more, maybe 1,000. You're not, but yeah, you run into ego in fly tyers. I think
Nice. Good.
you're not going to catch fish unless you use my fly.
Right.
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 Well,
That's
it's an interesting world of like wanting to get your pattern promoted, but it's only so slightly different than another pattern. So
Right.
Right.
it is probably a big ego game for sure.
Right.
It is. Yeah.
That's good.
And I ran into that a lot with my photography. I shot
Right.
Yeah.
60 weddings a year, and out of 52 weekends, I was pretty busy.
Right.
Yeah.
And photographers were the same way.
Right.
Yeah. Ego can do some dark things, that's for sure.
Yeah. So,
What is your definition of community?
well, you just like I just took over in our neighborhood, you have to give back. You cannot simply take. And you have to find ways, even if it's with fly tying.
Right.
I work a lot with Project Healing Waters
Mhm.
up in Leavenworth and some of the other groups around. So you have to give back to people, to your community.
Right.
I just took over just simple things, make a difference. I just took over raising and lowering the flags. We've got 2 entrances to our housing addition,
Mhm.
and I'm now in charge of flags up and down, half staff, whatever.
Right.
But it's just another way to give back.
Back. Right. Right. Good.
I don't have to. It's never all about money.
Right.
No. Definitely not.
No,
No, that's fantastic.
not-
I love that.
that's not what's going to make you happy.
No.
The money.
Service.
It's that-
Giving back.
It's that 30-inch trout on the wall behind you that's going to make you happy.
It did put a smile on my face, and a lot of other people that were around me. And the funny thing about it was, like, I couldn't get it in my net, and
too
everybody
big.
was hollering, "Oh, that's a bad thing to have.
Right.
You can't
Real
get
tough problem.
It's not so big you can't get it in the net."
That's good.
awesome.
That's great.
So,
What's one thing that you've changed your mind about lately?
really, I think what's important.
Yeah.
I went through a lot of years. I mean, all I did was hunt fish, hunt fish, hunt fish, archery, hunt deer. I mean, and I kind of left my family out.
Mm,
And those are the people that are going to stand behind you and have your back.
right.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the biggest change I've made. I am so into my granddaughters
Good.
that, one's 2 and one's 5, and they
Right.
put a smile on my face better than the fish.
That's it right there. Absolutely.
Yeah.
My 4-year-old does the same to me every day. So
I'm
that was a
sure.
big change in my life. It was
Boy
pretty
or
awesome.
girl.
Girl.
Yeah,
Yep.
they're sweet, aren't they?
Oh man,
Yep.
she's fun.
I mean,
She's
most
fun.
of the time.
Yeah.
Most of the time. It's
Yeah.
enough of the time that it outweighs the other times for sure.
Right. Yeah.
And as a
Sure.
grandparent, you probably get all the fun time anyways.
We have them 2 days a week all day.
Oh, nice.
Well, the older one, the 5-year-old, is now in school, but
Right.
the younger one, the 2-year-old, we have her Tuesdays and Thursdays all day.
Oh, that's
That's
fantastic. That's
And the
good.
kids just live 7 houses from us.
Oh,
Okay.
perfect.
That makes
Nice.
it really, really nice.
That's
And then we
great.
get together every Sunday for dinner.
Yep.
Oh, that's family
Yeah,
dinners.
My wife grew up in rural Minnesota, and that was how, she has fond memories of all the cousins and her grandparents and having Sunday family dinner out at the farm. So it was, so that's cool. That's good time together with family.
Do you fish the eagle?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
It's a great fishery.
We always went out. Do you know where Camp Hale is, just south?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, we always had Colorado Bow Hunters Jamboree there at Camp Hale, and I'd
Right.
always take my fly rod and fish the eagle.
You go, right. Yeah. Good.
That's a great river.
Yeah,
We were just out in that whole drainage. Was it last
Yeah.
fall or the fall before that?
Yep.
That is a great area.
that whole valley. I can't remember how many people showed up from all over the world
World.
to shoot that Bow Hunters Jamboree, but
Wow.
I mean, that whole valley was campers and tents, and
Right.
That's cool.
Yeah.
it was incredible.
Nice.
Our last question comes from our previous guest, who was a fly tyer as well, but it's Kurt Schaefer at PGH Fly Co. And his question is, if you died today, would you be happy with what you achieved? And if not, why and how can you change it?
Yeah, I would be super happy with what I've achieved, but there's always room for improvement. I mean,
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
I find myself going back and looking at some of the flies, even if I tied them a week ago, and taking them apart and saying that wasn't quite it. But you run into that a lot with salmon fly tires.
Right.
They're
Right.
all about perfection.
OCD.
He was talking about a fly that he's been developing over the course of like the better part of 6 years and how it just hasn't quite got right and blah, blah, blah. And now he finally just got it to a point where it was like, and he was trying to explain it. And he's just like, there's just a point where you got it right. And up until that point, there's just something that could be better or different about it.
Right. Or maybe one thing you could add to it.
Right. Yeah.
Reed and him had like a good connection because it also takes Reed 6 years to tie a fly. So they were like in unison about how,
Wow.
so.
That's not, yeah.
That
wasn't necessary.
That I tied down at Mountain Home. I don't know how to.
Oh, that one's cool too.
Yeah.
That one,
That's
sounds
what
like
they call a monarch pattern.
I was going to say, it looked like a butterfly.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's really cool.
Anyway, I tied
How
down.
many of those do you have framed?
I don't frame very many.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm too particular. But I think maybe 20.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Does your wife let you put them up all over the house, or are they
No.
confined?
There's a wildlife photographer, Tom Mangelson. It's probably one of the best in the world, and I collect
Mhm.
work, and we've got more of that up than fly smells.
Right. Nice. Yeah. My wife doesn't let me put any of my fish prints up. Nothing.
No,
Nope.
she doesn't get it.
Someday I'll get my man cave and be able to do it. But yeah,
Right.
until then,
And that's kind
no
of what
dice.
this is for me.
Right? Yeah, yeah. That's awesome.
It's an awesome room. Well, what would your question be for our next guest?
Is it ever perfect?
Nice, good question.
That's a good
I
one.
like it. I like it. That's
Yeah.
good.
Probably not, but
Right? Yeah.
especially
It
to
never-
a white hire.
Right.
know?
Right. Yeah.
Well, it's so funny because like I look at your flies, I'm like, that is perfect, and you're probably like, this is the worst thing I've tied in the last month.
Yep.
That's exactly right.
Well, everybody looks at stuff at it with a different eye. I mean,
For
Yeah.
sure. It's a different lens to look through it.
look, I don't know if you can you see the head on that fly?
Uh-huh.
And this is something people don't realize. Back in the 14 and 1500s, they could forge the hook and the
Yeah.
point and the shank of the hook. They had no clue how to put an eye on a hook. So they would get silkworm gut from China and tie it in the full length of the shank of the hook for the eye.
Interesting. And so
Nice.
it's just like
Right. Like
cloth.
a loop. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like it really feels, and this is true silkworm gut, but it's like well, like the gut like they'd put it in a tennis racket or a
Right. Wow.
yeah.
What does a silkworm? How do you go about getting a silkworm gut?
I don't know how. I think they. Well, and I'm really not sure. I probably shouldn't say, but I think they have a trail of this silk,
Right.
and I think it's then twisted. Several strands is twisted to make
I see a thicker.
Okay.
Like
a
yeah.
thicker.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
it's really rough.
Right.
I mean, you would think it would wear into a line and break it because it's pretty rough.
Wow.
And it doesn't break. It's really strong.
It's really strong.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's
Cool.
like taking a strand of spider web,
Right.
multiple strands, and twisting it and making a thread out of it.
Right. Right.
That's super cool.
Now, somebody's going to say, Doug, you're wrong.
And that's
all right. Whatever.
all right. We'll
That's
say
all right.
screw them. We're fascinated.
Yeah.
No, that's really cool. See, that's the stuff about the history, like of hook. Like I wouldn't have known that. I just always thought they had hook eyes to them. Right.
And they used to have like at the tip end of the front of the hook, they would just mash it to make a little mashed out part.
Yeah.
And then they tied the leader to the shank of the hook, and it couldn't pull off because of that little nub at the front.
Right.
It wouldn't allow it to slip off.
Slip off. Right. Yeah.
But that was after this.
Right.
So could you tie like? Does it have to be silkworm gut? But two, could you like? Because I know Reed and I even at times have trouble like seeing the eye of a fly. Could you like snip the eye of a hook off and tie something else to make a bigger eye? Is that like possible?
Oh,
Would
sure.
that be like?
Yeah, in fact, some of the because for a while I couldn't afford the salmon, what they call a blind eye hook. That's
Yeah.
just
Okay.
a taper out the front. So I would take a big hook and cut it off and take it to taper it. And then I've got a paint that you can paint it to make it look like it came that way.
Okay.
And then tie the silkworm gut off.
Okay. Wow.
Some of the flies, there's a guy, I'm trying to think of his name, out in Oregon that hand forges my salmon fly hooks, my blind eye hooks.
Oh, wow.
And they're not terrible, but they're probably close to $12 a piece.
Wow.
It's not like you're going to sit down and tie 100 anyway, but
Right.
it's kind of pricey. So
Yeah.
anyway,
That's awesome. It's amazing stuff you do on the flying tying bench. I'll tell you that. Your flies are
What?
gorgeous. It's amazing what you do. Yeah, they're really pretty flies that you're making.
Right. It gets me through the winter.
That's good, right?
Right. And now that he's gone. Oh, and we are going to, the club, Heart of America, is going to have Tuesday nights at Bass Pro in Olathe from 4 to 7. We're going to just a bunch of us set and tie. And then Saturdays, noon to 4.
Okay.
Wow.
So if
Nice.
anybody wants to learn or pick our brains, come on out.
There you go.
Definitely going to take you up on that. And we're also going to have to find a time to get on the water together here when it warms up a
let's
little
do
bit.
it. I mean,
Love
here in
it.
the spring, if you like just big sunfish, the greenies at Lexington Lake, early spring, great big green sunfish.
Nice.
Okay.
So much
Great.
fun top water.
I'm in. Yep, I'm coming out.
That's still my favorite fish.
All right.
Yeah.
Little 1 weight, 2 weight, big
Right.
sunfish. Can't beat it.
Good.
That's awesome. We're always talking about grabbing our 3 weights because that's what we fish with all the time out in Colorado and going and searching for bluegill and sunfish and stuff like that. So,
I was really big in fishing the 1 weight, and I was down at Taneycomo with my 1 weight, and I hooked a little over 20-inch brown.
Oh boy.
And before I got it in, I couldn't revive it. Came right home and sold my 1 and the 2. So now all I got's a 3. But yeah, I don't want to kill any fish.
yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
You got to use the right tackle for the job.
Yeah.
But I have landed like a 20-pound catfish on a 1 weight.
Holy
Wow.
mackerel.
So
That's crazy.
in fact, Mike George had to come over and help me land it.
Yeah.
I'd get it in and then he'd take off, and
That's awesome.
there's no stopping him with a 1 weight.
No.
Yeah.
Well, this has been an awesome conversation.
Yeah, it has been fun. And let's try and get together.
Yeah.
One of the guys, Kurt Elder, who is a huge bamboo rod maker,
Right.
him and the Carpenter brothers, I don't know if you're familiar with them or not, make the most gorgeous bamboo rods you'll ever
Nice.
see. About $1,500 to $2,000, but they are absolutely gorgeous.
Right.
Google Kurt Elder.
Okay.
And look at his rods. He's right here in Overland Park.
Awesome.
I don't even know where I was going with that.
Well, maybe we'll all get together and go fishing together.
Fishing.
Yeah, let's do it. And they go to Fort Collins. The 2 guys that are building these bamboo rods go to Fort Collins every year.
Oh, nice.
Cool.
Good.
Well, yeah, we'll definitely have to link up and connect with them.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we appreciate the conversation, Doug. It's been great. Really has.
Yeah, I'm sorry the way we bounce back and forth on wind, but
That's okay.
No,
That's not a
just
problem.
glad to have you on and hear the stories and the history. And this was fun for me for sure.
Yeah, very fun. Thank you for having me.
Yep.
Thanks for being here.
We'll talk soon.
All righty, later.
Doug makes me want to learn how to tie these salmon flies. I mean, they're so beautiful and so unique and so cool looking compared to any other type of fly tying.
I'm telling you, it's like art. It truly is art. Like, I don't even
Yeah.
think he fishes, he ties them to put them in those things, but it is like when you tie something that beautiful, it's impressive. And he's been doing it a long time and studied it. I thought salmon fly tying was about, catching fish. But he seems to be doing it just for the love and the art of it, which is cool.
Yeah. No, and it's crazy to see just like all the different, it opens a whole new world of fly patterns. I mean, you think about the typical like foam body hoppers or, dry flies, nymphs, things like that. And they look like bugs, but I mean, these are like full on, just completely different, unique, really cool looking things. And they're all different.
the creativity again, like, is insane, to be able to use, the materials and stuff to create something. And each one of them looks incredibly different, right? There's like no two salmon flies look the same.
Right.
They're so intricate, and the time it takes to tie one of them, it's no doubt. So that is really cool stuff.
Yeah. I think the coolest part about getting to know Doug, and like mentioned in the show, he was kind of the first fly tying class I've ever taken, teacher for that. But to watch him interact and create and create the community that he has created through fly fishing is truly inspirational or aspirational, however you want to say it. Just I want that in my life, to have just a bunch of old guys sitting around a table laughing, tying flies together, and they do it just on the regular. It's awesome.
Right. And there's a dedication piece to that, to see him, in his love for teaching that stuff still. He doesn't have to do that stuff, but he's so invested in it, and he just loves it so much, that he's willing to go do these fly tying stuff with these different groups. And it's so cool to see that. I hope, like you say, you hope that that's how it is for you when you get up there.
Right.
You know what I mean? To be, he truly is an inspiration for that. It was a great conversation talking with him.
For sure. Well, what are you celebrating this week?
I am celebrating, actually, even though it's kind of weird, but I've been having knee issues with my knee replacement. But I'm celebrating some good news that I got. I've been having issues. I went to the doc, and I got this marble-sized bone chip floating around in there that's been causing me a bunch of irritation and pain in my knee. And I'm celebrating that because there's a plan moving forward to relieve that. And so I'm hoping to get, after 2 years, I had my knee replaced 2 years ago, and it's been progressively kind of getting worse. And now I know why. So I got an answer to, I'm not going crazy. As your body ages, you start to feel these aches and pains and things. You start to wonder, like, what the hell's going on? Am I making this stuff up? Is it all in my head? But there's some real issues with it, which is good. So I got an answer to that, and that feels good to have a plan moving forward. Yes, I'm going to have to go under the knife again to get it pulled out, but it's only going to be about 6 weeks that I'm out. So, and then we'll get back to it and fishing in healthy for prime time fishing season. So I'm celebrating that. That's good news for me.
That's awesome, man. I'm excited to have you in full form for the right months of the year.
Right. How about you, dude? What are you celebrating these days?
I am celebrating. I just got back from a trip with my mom. We were trying to do some one-on-one parent trips, knowing that we don't have for forever with everybody, and looking at, how many more years we have with one another. I think we have quite a few, but doesn't mean that I should squander them in any way. So I am just celebrating the time I got to spend one-on-one with my mom, and it was awesome. So
nice. That's good, dude. Yeah, that's quality. And you're right about that. You don't have forever. So right. I'm glad you're making some space for that. That's good. That's important.
What are you navigating?
I'm going to take one from the late, great John Girac. I'm navigating winter, dude. I have a bad case of the shack nasties, as good old John would say. It is. We got cold here in Colorado. There's been, these cold snaps followed by 50, 60 degree weather, then another blast of Arctic air. Dude. And I'm like, I want to go fish, but it's just so up and down that, the last time I went out a couple of weeks ago and didn't even see a fish. It was a beautiful day. I was out. It was great. But yeah, dude, navigating winter when all you want to do is fish. And I'm going to tell you, having my screensaver on my computer of, a fish launching out of the water on the end of one of my lines from a photo. That doesn't help me.
Well, why would you do that to yourself?
I know. It's like just self-abuse, dude.
Yeah, these are navigations you can avoid, and you're just self-inflicted pain.
Yeah. So, I'm definitely navigating the winter shack nasties, as John Girac calls it. Yeah. How about you, brother? What you navigating?
I am navigating kind of the final days of my grandma's life. So part of the trip I was just out with my mom on was going and spending time with my grandma who's on at the end of her battle with dementia and aging, and it was actually kind of a magical time that I had kind of expected this passing a long time ago, but it was fun to be there with her and watch kind of this almost childlike shell of a state of her, where every now and then you got a little glimpse of the way she was before. It was kind of cool, but it is tough to see, obviously, aging and death and all of that. So that's kind of what I'm navigating. It's a positive and a negative. Obviously, losing someone is awful, but at the same time, it was good to be out there and make time for that. So.
Right. Yeah. It's such an emotional up and down in so many things that go on with it. So, it is definitely a navigation.
Yep.
That's good, dude. I'm glad you were able to be with her though, and have some of those moments.
For sure.
And that's good that you're able to get some of that. That's cool. That's good.
Yep. Lots of good family time. So.
Right on. Well, that's good, brother.
Yep.
Another great episode, dude.
Another great episode. Can't wait to get out with Doug and do some fishing.
Absolutely.
All right, man. Well, on to the next one.
Yep, absolutely, brother. Love you, man.
Love you too. Talk to you.
That's all for today's episode. Thanks for listening. Make sure to visit our website, guysfishingweekend.com, to check out the GFW merch, sign up for our newsletter, and learn how to get involved with the community. We appreciate you spending even a little bit of your week with us, and are glad to have you along on the journey. Stay legendary and happy fishing.